Hello, my name is Susanna Gilbert and I am here from the Careers and Enterprise Hub at Canterbury Christ Church University. Today we are very excited and delighted to have with us Monica from Enterprise Venture and with her Bianca as well, who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves properly and more fully in a moment. But just to say thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you here and I look forward to being part of this workshop. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you very much for allowing us to run this application workshop. I'm going to let Bianca introduce herself in just a moment. My name is, as already Susanna has introduced me, Monica, and I'm the Talent Acquisition Marketing Specialist here at Enterprise. So my job is to attract students that from all different disciplines and courses into our placement or graduate schemes, and not just final years, but also first years. So if you're looking to engage with us and really understand a little bit more about our company, who we are, what sort of things are involved in our graduate schemes and our placement schemes, so that you can have a better informed decision throughout your next couple of years, and that's great too. So I'm going to be delivering this session, this application workshop, with the help of my colleague Bianca, who I'm going to let introduce herself now.
Thank you so much, Monica. My name's Bianca, the Campus Brand Manager for Canterbury Christ Church in regards to Enterprise. I'm just here to help Monica to help recruit students from our university to join Enterprise and to join the amazing business. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great. And although this session is being recorded, you will see in the slides that I'm going to be sharing in just a moment that there is a link for students to register their interest with Enterprise, and also to register with Bianca, because Bianca will be able to help you as well with any specific questions around the graduate schemes and really help your application. So please do go ahead and register your interest with Enterprise. So even if you aren't listening to the session live, you can register your interest. And I know we do have that link. It will be live and open for anybody who wants to register. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to share my screen here. And let me know, Bianca, I can see you, which is great, because you can give me a nod. And in particular, when the video plays, just want to make sure that you can see the link when that plays. So what we have is, obviously I'm going to go through an overview of Enterprise, the career opportunities, and review the application process and with specific tips throughout the full process from application to your interviews, right down to the last and final stage. And we'll go ahead and start with an overview of who we are. So we are not just car rental, although the name is Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We like to call ourselves a global solutions mobility company. And what that means is we provide solutions to all different customers for all different needs. And we are a large company, although we are family owned. We are the largest transportation company in the world. We generate over $24 billion in annual revenue, and we have over 100,000 employees worldwide. Award-winning customer service as well. Lots of publications have been written about our customer service, and we have over 2 million vehicles, which makes up the world's largest fleet, and over 10,000 locations in airports, railway stations, neighborhoods, and locations. So, which makes up, as I said, the world's largest fleet and the world's largest network, and we are in over 100 countries, both corporately and franchise. So if you considered starting your career locally to where you live, where you've got your family and friends, and then expanding it a little bit further into more regional or maybe national or even international one day, this could be a really good opportunity, a really great opportunity for you to do that. Now, this is our what we call our One Enterprise strategy. Our One Enterprise means internally that we want to be the one-stop shop for customers, not just a car rental company where people just use us when they have to move house or when they need to go on a trip. As we know, coming out of lockdown, lots of families, lots of consumers now want to think about, what are they going to do for their holidays? And at the minute, it's still really unpredictable. So the road trip is what we call it. The road trip is back. So we are anticipating that customers will be able to come back to us, the ones that we have lost during the pandemic. But the ones that we've gained during the pandemic are these customers here on the right-hand side, the ones that are providing the large transportation goods from A to B. These are the customers that we've gained, and this business has done really well during the pandemic. So overall, the business has, yes, been impacted through COVID, like every business. I don't know anybody who hasn't been impacted, but we have restructured and we've come out with some really great alternatives within our fleet, because we do have such a diverse fleet. So really exciting about our brand as well, that we have quite a few businesses under our brand. So we are Enterprise, of course, but we also have Alamo and National, which are our two brands that you're likely to see at airport locations. Alamo is more the budget and National is more the corporate renter. And then the other businesses that we have are Car Club, which is our hourly car club. So for customers that don't want to come into the branch and they want to pick up the vehicle from a location, we've got dedicated locations across the UK, and the customer can pick up the vehicle wherever it's located, any time of the day or night, any time of the year, for as little as an hour. And we obviously have Enterprise Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is our 400 plus locations across the UK, renting these types of vehicles, everything from large, long wheelbase high-top van to our maybe BMWs, Mercedes, premium ranges. And then we have our exotic car collection, and these are these cars here on the bottom left, which are supercars. So Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bentleys. This is a dedicated department, a dedicated brand. That is replacing those customers with those premium vehicles and super vehicles that they own or have, either for business or personal use. And then lastly, as I already mentioned, is this flexi rent. So you can see a diverse fleet, and this is what makes up, again, the one-stop shop, as I said at the beginning, to complete our One Enterprise strategy. Really proud to say that we are the Times Top 100 graduate employers, one of the top Times 100. If you do read that and you want to see what graduate scheme is, where they come, and that's really been through the dedication of our training and development and progression of our employees. And we've also been voted through the Times Top 50 employers for women. Really proud, because we are in the automobile industry, and in the automobile industry, women aren't as represented. It's not an even split. There's only about 20% females in the automobile industry, so it's not equal. However, in the last 5 years, we have seen an increase in the number of women entering the automobile industry, and in particular into our graduate schemes, which is great. We're currently above that. We're about 30 to 35% females, but of course we are still running campaigns, and we're doing what we can to attract females, and really anybody in general who doesn't think that a career in car rental or in the automobile industry is right for them. It's for me, when I joined, I definitely didn't think that perhaps I had all the skills to work in a car rental. I didn't know anything about cars for a start, and I wasn't really that in touch with a car rental. And it wasn't until I went through the interview process that my recruiter reassured me that, they were assessing me on my skills and the skills that I would need to do the job, not my knowledge of the industry. A passion for cars, of course, helps, but you don't need to know that. You don't need to know that any of that as you begin. That's all learned, and that's what we'll teach you when you begin with us. So I'm going to play a short video next that has some employees that work within our business today, and sharing some of their views on joining the graduate scheme.
It's supportive, it's exciting, and it's rewarding. There's never a dull moment, whether it's answering the phone, dealing with customers.
It's never the same. Every day is different.
You never ever stand still in this job, and you're always looking at the next exciting venture.
So my first impressions of Enterprise were that I was just going to be out renting cars. That's completely changed since I've started. I now realise I'm running a business and I'm managing people and I'm completely in control of my own future.
Seeing how quickly people get promoted around you just makes you believe that you'll be the next one to be promoted.
When I started with Enterprise, I knew that there was progression available to me, but never thought it was going to be as quick as what I've achieved.
Throughout your career, you are always trained and supported.
You start on one career path, and there's so many opportunities for you to have different experiences.
There's a number of people who work for Enterprise for a long time for a good reason.
There's so many different people, and we all mesh so well together. The people are the best thing about Enterprise. The people around me, the people I work with, the support network, and the opportunities are endless.
You can go and work in other countries, in other areas of the business.
I've never had a day where I come into work and not enjoyed myself yet.
I love seeing my team making customers happy on a daily basis.
It's massively to do with who you are and what you want to achieve. And if you're a driven person, then you're going to succeed.
Great, hope you enjoyed that video. It was in anticipation of our 25-year anniversary, and we had some employees, some newer employees, some more established employees come and share their thoughts. And I think the main things that stood out from the themes there are employees that didn't think that they would be running their business and managing employees, really just assumed you'd be out renting cars. So that's the biggest myth that we have within our business, attracting students, and I was definitely one of them. I definitely needed to read more about working for the company before I made the decision to apply, and I'm really pleased I did. One of the things that's kept me, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the career timeline before we go into the application tips. One of the things I can assure you is that diversity and inclusion is central to everything that we do here at Enterprise. And we define diversity as the many qualities and characteristics that make us individual. And that uniqueness is what makes it really important to us, because by embracing the differences that others bring, it drives innovation, it drives us to be happier in our roles, and it connects us more to our communities as well. So having an all-inclusive workplace helps our company not only do better, but also attract and retain the best talent, because people can see themselves when you look at these pictures. So these are a couple of pictures here of our diversity group, some of the campaigns that we've run. Obviously, my banner in the back, I know it's the 1st of April, but we've just celebrated the full month of March is International Women's Day that was kicked off. And then we just celebrated Women's History Month throughout the month by doing panel discussions, talks, celebrating some of our females. And I'm proud to say that our CEO is female. She's our second CEO to be female. So again, that helps reassure employees like me, knowing that we have women represented in senior management in our roles in the business. So the career timeline at Enterprise is really important, and this is something that we share with every candidate. So if you are interested in applying, like I said, myself and Bianca will be able to help you in your application. But knowing your career timeline is important. You will be asked to your awareness and your understanding of the role at Enterprise. So really, in summary, it's a fast-track training program to become a branch manager within 2 years. So if you like management, if you like working with people, or maybe learning how to become a manager and learning how to lead, if you like working in a team, if you like that variety, if you like working in a retail environment, working again to help train others, and this could be the right career for you. So it takes about 10 months to complete the initial training that you'll have with us. It is a permanent position, so you'll be provided a contract at the end of your training. And the great thing is that everyone learns at their own pace. So even though it takes 10 months on average to complete, it would only, if you wanted to complete the training in 6 months, for example, or 7, if you're really progressing, then that's up to you. So everyone learns at their own pace, and everyone starts at the beginning. So everyone who works within the business today all has started as a graduate management trainee or placement, including our CEO. So from here, as I said, you move on to branch manager. Within 2 years, you can be a branch manager within 2 years. And assistant manager and branch managers both are paid commissions and from their individual performance, their branch, on top of their salary. And you can then move into some of the other areas of our business, such as B2B sales or risk, or perhaps HR or sales, just depending on where your skills are and where you're really developing. Or you can continue the area manager route, the operations route, and maybe make it to vice president, general manager one day. So that is our career timeline. Summary of the graduate training program is you'll be working in a live environment. Sales, marketing, finance, fleet logistics is some of the things that you'll be learning. And you'll also be helping develop some new trainees that maybe will be joining behind you, after you, because we have a year-round recruitment campaign. So there will be others that will start after you, and you'll be given a training folder. It's really structured. You'll be working on it week by week. It'll tell you what you should be learning, and then your area manager signs off to make sure that you are progressing well and making sure that you're getting the training and development that you need to complete your training program. The placement is very similar. It is a paid role. It lasts on average 12 months. We are really flexible with the start and finish due to your course. And it's a very similar role. It's the same job with some slight adjustments for our placement students on, for example, the type of vehicles they could drive. But overall, you can't even become an assistant manager, a management assistant, which is the first promotion, before you even leave, and be offered a graduate role with Enterprise before you even leave your placement. So really great, and maybe even get the opportunity to do what Bianca is doing as a campus brand manager, and that is selling our graduate scheme and placement scheme to other students on campus. So moving on to what we look for, and I'll just invite Bianca to join me on this one. And I know that customer service and sales are the two that come up very, very regularly. And I just want to ask Bianca to contribute with her thoughts on some examples around customer service and sales that that might come up, because I've definitely found when I've interviewed candidates in sales in particular, they may not feel like they have a lot of experience, and they start off by saying, I don't have a lot of sales experience, and then by the time they tell me that they worked in a retail environment and they had targets, and they had and they were voted as best sales person for that month because they sold the most number of store cards, or if they worked in a restaurant and they sold the most number of wine, special wines for that evening, that is sales. So let us do the deciding on whether or not that's enough for us. You just need to sell yourself on it. So any advice to any candidates that are looking to apply, Bianca, that you found from speaking to the other prospects so far, and what they could use for customer service or sales experience?
Yes, definitely. I do find in general, university, there's a lot of skills students don't realise they've actually picked up just through their course. So sometimes there might be sets of projects or pictures that a candidate might have done, and they wouldn't realise that there's actually valuable experience that they can use in their application. So I do think there are quite a few modules so far I've done where I've definitely used all of these skills. So it's just about taking it apart and thinking, actually, rather than I did this assignment, it's during this time in a project I performed this skill, or I had to utilise this skill. So it's just really thinking a bit more holistically about the things that you've done.
Yeah, really good advice. Thinking wide rather than just what you think and what you assume is really good advice. These are the 6 competencies that we will be assessing on in the application process. And it would be great if you could have some of each, but you don't need to have all. And the customer service and sales are the 2 most important for us to begin with, because from there we can assess you on your communication or your work ethic. So really, to get your foot in the door, the customer service and sales needs to come out in your application form. I would also say that if you want to demonstrate some leadership, it doesn't always need leadership, and sales does kind of go hand in hand, and so does customer service and sales. But it doesn't always have to be paid work. You could be demonstrating your experience through the what you've done at university, projects, or maybe some extracurricular activities such as your student societies. Bianca's going to be able to share some really great examples to her future employer on what she's learned as a campus brand manager through the experience. So it's not just about having a full-time, role, graduate or full-time role or part-time role that's going to give you that experience. Think about what you're doing on campus and your extracurricular activities. Now, the application process for Enterprise is really straightforward. It starts off with the 15-minute online application form. So once you register with us, it'll take you through a form, and it asks you for some personal information such as your name, your address, how you heard about us, telephone number, email address, etc., and then some career history, or work history, I should say, and then some additional information. That additional information is really key for us to identify those customer service and sales experience if you haven't already identified that in the work experience that you have. So make sure you don't leave that blank. It is optional, and that's my number one tip, is don't leave that blank. We do want to hear more, especially again if you have those extracurricular activities, or maybe some volunteering, or maybe you're taking a lead in some of your university projects. And if you've had a really good mark, talk about that. List the outcome. So the second step after an application process is hopefully you'll be called in for an interview. That might be a phone interview, which is a 10-15 minute interview, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. But virtual interview, which is a 45 minute to an hour, really informative interview, both you understanding more about the role. So we're gonna be sharing a lot more information with you about the role, what it entails, the good, bad, and the ugly, because there's always a good, bad, and the ugly with any role. And when I say ugly, I don't mean catastrophe. I just mean things that are challenging, things that are really going to challenge you as a new employee, and really you need to think twice about it. And lastly, it would be the branch visit as the last and final stage if you're successful from the virtual interview. So it could last about 3 hours, the branch visit, so you'll be observing. So it's a great opportunity for you to see in a branch yourself what takes place, how do things work. Can you see yourself in the shoes of the assistant manager and the branch manager? And when you're engaging with those employees in the branch, what's that feeling you got? Did you feel like it was a warm, welcoming environment when you can grow and develop, or did you just feel like it wasn't quite the environment that you were expecting? It's a retail environment, so that's the first thing you're going to observe, not sort of a quiet office environment where there aren't any interruptions. This is going to be very dynamic, really fast paced, and you have to be prepared for that. That's why that branch visit opportunity is there for you to see that. Most of the time, candidates do say, yeah, that's exactly what I had in mind, and I really enjoyed it, and it makes me want to work in Enterprise even more. And that's that's great. And they'll have the area manager do their final interview. Very competency-based questions, assessing some of those competencies that I've already shared that we'll be assessing on. And then you'll be offered the graduate training program position or the placement program position shortly after your final visit. So you'll be pleased to know we're no longer assessing you at through an assessment center. So the last and final stage is a branch visit. On to the application top tips. I just want to go through a few quick numbers. 14% of applications do end up in the bin because they show lack of research. 21 because of the spelling mistakes or grammar. So make sure you double check, triple check your grammar. Ask someone, friend, relative to look over before you hit submit. That is why some recruiters will reject, especially if they are checking this manually and not using an automated tracking tool system to check. Also, it's a pet peeve if someone hasn't spelled their university name correctly, or the name of perhaps of their previous employer, well-known previous employer. It just shows lack of attention to detail, and it is a big concern. So make sure you're not showing that as a, just because you were short for time, that it does reflect on you. So make sure that you do check your spelling and grammar. 29%, lastly, is the underqualified bit. So where someone has applied for roles and they don't meet the criteria. The problem with this is sometimes, especially women tend to assume that they don't qualify. because they may have not got every one of those 5 or 6 points and experiences that they can recall. There will be examples and that you can use, as Bianca said, going narrow, thinking about more holistically how what you've achieved and how can you transfer that experience into this role. And it only takes about 6 seconds for a recruiter to have a look at their ACV. We don't ask for a CV, hence why the application is so important that it stands out with your experience tailored to our role. Otherwise, it could be rejected based on lack of experience or lack of, I guess, if it doesn't stand out. So make sure that you do tailor your experience to the role. So top application rejection reasons are incompletion. So if someone doesn't complete the application, that tends to be the #1 reason why we would reject. And then I've already covered this, not tailoring the application to the role and spelling and grammar mistakes. So those are the top 3 reasons why today we do reject applications. And it's such a shame because we may get a large number. Maybe we put on an event on campus and we get the applications, but we haven't been able to proceed based on the fact that you haven't completed it or the application. For our role, for example, the graduate training program or the placement looks for customer service and sales. But if you come from maybe an accountancy background, which is fine, but all your work experience is very numeracy, analytical, maybe some digital, and you don't mention or reference anything to do with customer service or sales, it's very hard to find that skills unless it's in your additional information. So make sure you do tailor it, and also make sure that you do use spell check and check over your grammar. The application system is one way that large employers, like for example, Google or Amazon, might use an applicant tracking system. It's automatic, and that also means that you need to stand out. So you need to use specific buzzwords to make sure that your application isn't ended up being rejected because you haven't stood out. The other important thing on the application to succeed is to make sure that you state your personal information. So make sure that your email address is up to date. If it's your final year at uni and you're applying, a couple months before you're due to graduate, and you go back to you go back to complete your application after you graduate, there could be a specific time where your email address no longer is valid because it was a uni email address. So make sure things like that are taken into consideration with your online application, and make sure, as I mentioned, you add achievements and personal interest in there to make sure you stand out. So if you have specified your skills and you've tailored your experience to the role, then hopefully you'll be receiving a phone screen or a phone interview. So why do we use it? It's not to decide who's going to be hired. It is to identify those that will not make the next stage, so who won't make the cut. So we're narrowing the applicant pool. We do have thousands of applications, and we do have to narrow it down. And so by having a phone screen, it allows us to see who does not qualify. So we'll be assessing you on the suitability of the skills that we shared with you, and also find out more about you and why you want to work for us. It's usually about 10 minutes long. Some employers do tend to go a little bit longer. Typically, only about 3 out of 6 will make it through the next round. So it is important that you treat the phone screen like it is your last and only interview, or your first and only interview. So be ready. Don't be this person, the person who is, if it's a 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., you're sleeping in until the phone rings. Make sure that you treat it as if the recruiter can see you. Show your enthusiasm, smile, sound really engaging by asking some questions. Ask them about, how the recruiter engage with the recruiter. How are they doing? Research the company. This is a big, big one for employers. They do ask what you know about the company. Don't answer it with, well, I was hoping you would be able to give me more information about your company. Well, actually, you're applying. You need to sell yourself. So by going into the careers website is all you need to do. Just take, you don't need to spend a huge amount of hours researching and going into balance sheets. All the information you need to know that an employer wants you to know is on their careers website. So just take, half hour, an hour, reviewing the values, the mission, with some information, what's the latest news on enterprise. And if you engage with us nice and early, so hopefully you'll connect with Bianca now, and you can follow us on LinkedIn, for example. We're big on social media, and you can see some of those some of those topics. So you would maybe have seen some of the posts that we've done on International Women's Day, or maybe a new event's coming up. And you can see, I know just a couple of days ago I posted about an employee. I think he's in our French operations actually, who became the youngest branch manager in just 2 years. So it is obviously that is quite astonishing, and I think by just following us on LinkedIn, you can see some of these posts, and that's a great conversation point that you can bring up in the interview, and say, actually, I've read this post, and it shows your interest and your engagement in the business. Once you get to the phone screen, the next is, hopefully, if you pass that and you've made it and you've got the qualifications and you've done well and showing your enthusiasm in that phone interview, then you're going to get called for the virtual interview. Now the virtual interview will also, we have top 3 rejection reasons for the virtual interview with a recruiter. So what's the main one is lack of research, where the candidate just hasn't showed the research that we would have liked them to have demonstrated. They didn't know that our company is international, or perhaps that we do more than just rent cars. Of course, the name is the clues in the name, or knowledge of the role. What would I be doing? Is it a retail environment, or would I be working in an office? And then just overall lack of enthusiasm is key. This is the number one, and that's probably one that really gets me the most, is the lack of enthusiasm, because candidates do come with a role with some great experience. The ability is there. I know them because I've spent some time working with them. But then when they get to the interview in front of the hiring manager who's never met them before, and they just have that interview performance to assess them on, and they haven't been enthusiastic, they haven't showed interest, they just sort of answer the questions, maybe even textbook, but there's just that lack of enthusiasm. It's really hard to be convinced that that person really wants the job. And sometimes it's just nerves, sometimes it's just lack of practice. So make sure that you do focus on showing your enthusiasm. Fake it till you make it is a good tip that I've received from actually now our European managing director. He's an introvert. He struggled with this, and he really had to learn how to fake it, how to bring it, bring his energy and bring it all up to the level that was required, to really demonstrate it. And then obviously once he was in the job or got the job, people really understood he was communicating with people very differently. So that's something that I would stress to everybody, is make sure that you show your enthusiasm. So some tips here for video interviews. I always share this one. This is Robert Kelly back in 2017, who did a live interview on BBC News on South Korea, which was a really, really important topic. And his toddler and his baby came in the door. His door was shut, but not obviously locked. I think it was just ajar. And behind the baby came the mom trying to rescue, all on live television. Miraculously, yes, that the babies in the family did leave the room, but it was just quite funny and humorous. So top tip for video interviews is make sure that you pay attention to the detail and you remove any distractions that could put you off sync. Make sure you test your Wi-Fi. It even happens to the best of us today, when we've been doing this for a year now. Everything is virtual. Sometimes your internet will fail. It's not going to cost you the job, but making sure that you can just test and where in your room or your house you've got the best Wi-Fi, or especially if you've got your video on, that does take more. So make sure that you're prepared. And if you are having to use your phone, which is fine, don't hold it in your hand. Get a cradle or get something that you can position it on, so that it's not making the recruiter really dizzy, and that's really off-putting as well. So make sure you're not using, you're not holding the phone up to your hand. Again, that's probably one of the top tips that I would say. If I start an interview that way, it really starts off on the bad foot. So make sure that you do have your phone positioned somewhere. You can even test it. If you do a WhatsApp call with someone and say, hey, when I called you, could you see my face? And just test it. Make sure you could see what you want the recruiter to see. Dress code is, I always recommend that people do wear that dress from top to bottom, not just top up. It is an interview, so shirts or blouses, tops that aren't overly trendy. So keeping it as conservative as you can, because again, you don't want to give any impressions to the recruiter. So keeping it very, very simple. For men, I would say wearing, if you do wear a tie, that's great. You don't have to, but a shirt with a collar. So, not wearing a t-shirt or any sports tops. And just keeping it business casual or business dress as you can. And then the last 3 tips for the video interviews is make sure that you show the recruiter and demonstrate the research that you've done, that you've read the reviews. This really helps you in the role as well, because you know when you come to something, you think, well, I read that or I knew about that. It's not a surprise. Also, using the STAR technique, situation, task, action, and result, for practicing the commonly interviewed questions is going to help you, especially if you've got lots of examples or if you're not quite sure. Instead of just throwing out 2-3 examples at the same time and confusing yourself and not really stressing on the main action and the result that you wanted to, it just ends up being a bit mumbled. Using that STAR technique, which takes practice, and I even use it today sometimes, especially in my career with interviews, I had to practice that. So that really just helps you be more articulate and be more concise with your answers. And then lastly, that engagement piece, being authentic, engaging, and showing your enthusiasm. Don't be afraid to show your enthusiasm and say, I really want this job. Can you tell me if there's anything else that you need to hear from me to convince you that I'm the right person? Really sell yourself. This is the interview, and there is selling involved in the role. So by you starting to sell yourself here, will really make sure that you stand out from the others. So I mentioned doing your research. This is just a couple of examples of some of the things that you could talk about if you were coming to an interview with us. These are our founding values, and this is where you can find this is information you can find on our careers website. So something that you can talk about, which maybe value do you think you really relate most with, and talk about it with the recruiter. Also, linking with connecting with the recruiter or the campus brand manager like Bianca ahead of time will show preparation and again lots of engagement before your interviews. So lastly, I just want to summarize a piece that I've already talked about, the diversity and inclusion, and why it's important for us to take students that aren't just the same and come from different backgrounds, from a course, the subject, to maybe personal backgrounds, to gender, to age, maybe disability. We look for diversity. So we want to hire you based on what makes what makes you what makes you special. And this interview will give you an opportunity to demonstrate that. We really support the diversity that students bring. And as a business, we gain from a financial perspective, because the more diverse an organization is scientifically, and it's been proven that they will generate better profits as a result, because employees will be more productive and they'll be happier in their roles. So some tips for turning some of these, what you'd call differences, into advantages. So some examples could be, as I mentioned, gender, race, disability, sexual orientation. It feels kind of strange sometimes to sell yourself on these, but we want to hear, especially if you are happy to self-promote. We want to hear how your abilities or maybe your experience in having a diverse background could help, and that comes through you telling a specific story from your background and experience. For example, if you're LGBT and you want to talk about how you worked, or maybe you created the LGBT club at your university, or maybe you have a disability and you have worked with a specific cohort of students, and maybe some of the results that you've achieved, or if you speak more than one language, how that cross communication, how that has helped you. So make a real clear connection between your differences and how they will help you thrive in the job. Will really help your application, because we do look for people that are diverse and able to bring something different, and this really stands you out as well. Have some examples ready, keep it professional, and accentuate the positive on how that is going to impact the business. And lastly, if you are unsuccessful And we've all been there. Obviously, it does take a few times for you to get that job that you wanted. You're gonna be trying, and of course, this is just something natural. The first thing is to do is not take it personally, not take it like as a personal rejection, but actually learn from it. And the best way you could do is ask for feedback. Again, one of the main reasons and benefits of having Bianca as the brand ambassador and myself here today is you could ask for feedback and a bit more feedback if you weren't getting the detail that you want, because obviously you have that connection there with us as an employer. But any employer should be able to give you the feedback as to why. Sometimes you will get a generic message to say, unfortunately, we have selected someone else, or we haven't selected you, but good luck. Go ahead. You can go ahead and ask for some more specific feedback. Even ask them, how did you do? Were there areas that you did well in, and what were the areas that you need to improve on? And what was the overall reason? Was it that you didn't show the enthusiasm, or was it your lack of sales examples? Those really help you to review and obviously reflect, and it helps you build resilience. And that would be a great example for you to share in your next interview, how you took something, you took a negative, and you turned it to a positive, and you worked with having more self-reflected approach, and were hopefully successful. So that is it for the application tips. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found that interesting and helpful. And again, for those that haven't connected with us already, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. I have the QR code there that you've been following throughout the interview, or I'm sorry, the application tips and the presentation. That's to connect with me. And Bianca, I think you'll be able to also share your specific link to connect with Bianca as the campus brand manager that will be able to help you with your application for 2021. We still have a few 2021 placement roles open, so anybody who is looking for a placement. But of course, the 2021 roles is not long now until they begin. We're already hiring for that 2021 role. And for those first years or second years, again, registering with us will allow you to hear more about our programs, but also let you know when the jobs do open and when you're ready in the upcoming years, and be first to apply. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you very much for listening.